For 5 years, Claire gave everything. She worked part-time at the library so Harry could build his business. When his paychecks were late, she sold her grandmother's necklace to cover the mortgage. She didn't tell him. She bought flowers for his mother on her birthday, even though his mother never said thank you. And one Tuesday night, she spent 3 hours cooking pot roast with garlic mashed potatoes and roasted carrots, Harry's favorite. She set the table for 12 people, his aunts, his cousins, his mother, his uncle who always smelled like cigars, and a 23-year-old woman Claire had never seen before. Her name was Chidima. She'd flown in from Nigeria that morning, and she was sitting next to Claire's husband. While they ate, Harry slid a manila envelope across the table. Divorce papers. His mother was smiling. Claire signed them, and while she did, they kept eating. The food she'd cooked, the meal she'd spent 3 hours making, for the people celebrating her replacement. No one stopped her when she stood up. No one said a word when she walked out. But here's what Harry didn't know, what his mother didn't know, what none of them sitting at that table eating Claire's food knew. 2 months later, Claire would discover she was pregnant, naturally, with the baby they'd called her Barren for not having, the baby they'd blamed her for, the baby his mother made her drink bitter herbal mixtures for, mixtures that burned her throat and made her gag, because his mother insisted they would open her womb. And when Harry found out Claire was pregnant, he would beg her to come back, on his knees, in front of that same dining room table. But by then, Claire would be the one deciding if he deserved a second chance. This is how it ended. But to understand why Harry lost everything, you need to see what happened 6 months before the pot roast. Claire loved cooking for Harry. It was the one thing that still made her feel like a wife. She'd been in the kitchen for 3 hours, pot roast with garlic mashed potatoes and roasted carrots. Harry's favorite, the kind of meal that takes time and care and love. She set the table for 3. Harry, herself, and Christy. Christy was Harry's mother. She'd been living with them for the past year. She had her own house 20 minutes away, but she preferred to be here, watching. Christy arrived first. She walked into the dining room, arms folded. She didn't smile. She never smiled at Claire. Claire brought the pot roast to the table, steam rising off the meat, the potatoes whipped perfectly, the carrots glazed and golden. Harry came home 20 minutes later. He kissed his mother on the cheek. He sat down without looking at Claire. They started eating. Claire watched Christy take a bite of the pot roast. Christy chewed slowly, then she put her fork down. "There's no salt in this." Claire blinked. "I used the same recipe I always—" Christy stood up. She picked up her plate. She walked to the trash can in the corner of the kitchen, and she dumped the entire plate into the garbage. The pot roast, the potatoes, the carrots, all of it. Christy turned around and looked at Claire. "This food is a failure." The room was silent. Christy's voice got quieter, but somehow it cut deeper. "Just like your womb." Claire stood there, frozen. Harry kept eating. He didn't look up. He didn't say a word. Claire's hands started shaking. She sat back down. She stared at her plate, and she realized something. She was alone in her own marriage. 6 months before this night, Claire and Harry had gone to a fertility clinic. It was a Saturday morning. The doctor was kind. She ran tests on both of them. The doctor looked at Claire's file. "Your results are perfect. Ovulation is regular. No blockages. You're very fertile." Claire felt her chest loosen. The doctor turned to Harry. "Your sperm count is low, significantly below the threshold for natural conception. We'd recommend IVF and—" Christy stood up. "These American doctors don't know African bodies." The doctor blinked. "I'm sorry?" Christy reached across the desk. She grabbed Harry's medical report, and she tore it in half. Then she tore it again. The pieces fell onto the floor like snow. Harry stared at the floor. Claire stared at her hands. The doctor didn't say anything else. They left the clinic in silence. And from that day forward, they blamed Claire for a problem that was never hers. In the months that followed, Christy brought healers, traditional healers from Nigeria. They made Claire drink bitter mixtures that smelled like gasoline. They burned sage around her body and prayed for hours. They told her to sleep facing east and eat only white foods for 30 days. This was the 9th herbal mixture this month. Claire stood at the kitchen counter, grinding leaves into paste. The smell made her gag. Christy watched from the doorway, arms folded. A real woman wouldn't need this much help. Claire drank it anyway. Her throat burned. Christy didn't look away. That night, after Christy threw away her food, Claire tried to talk to Harry. She was in the bedroom, folding laundry. Harry's shirts, the ones she ironed every Sunday so he'd have them ready for the week. Harry was on his phone, scrolling. "Your mother threw my food away today." Harry didn't look up. "Maybe it wasn't good." Claire's hands stopped moving. "She called me a failure. She said my womb—" "Claire, not now." "Harry, she's been doing this for months. The herbs, the insults, the healers. I need you to say something." Harry put his phone down. He looked at her. His eyes were cold. "Do you have a child to show for it?" Claire's hands froze on the shirt she was holding. The room stopped. She didn't breathe. She didn't blink. She just stood there, holding a shirt that didn't feel like hers anymore. That was the moment she realized. He'd already chosen his mother over her. 2 days later, everything ended. Harry was on the phone in his office. The door was cracked. Claire walked past and heard his voice. Low. Transactional. "Just make sure the papers are ready by tomorrow night. At the dinner." Claire stopped walking. Her heart dropped into her stomach. That evening, a car pulled up to the house. Claire was washing dishes. She looked out the window. A young woman stepped out of the car. She was maybe 23. Pretty. Wearing a long skirt and a modest blouse. Behind her, a man in a suit got out. He carried a briefcase. The doorbell rang. Christy opened the door. "Chidima, welcome, my daughter." The young woman smiled. Shy, polite. "Thank you, Ma." Christy hugged her like she was family. The man in the suit nodded at Harry. Harry shook his hand. Claire stood in the kitchen, hands still wet. She didn't know it yet, but the woman getting out of that car was about to take her place, and the man in the suit, he was there to make it legal. The family dinner was that night, 12 people at the table. Claire had spent the entire afternoon cooking: turkey, mac and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, sweet potato pie, the kind of meal that takes love and hours. Harry's aunts arrived first, then his cousins, then his Uncle Jerome, who always smelled like cigars. Chidima sat next to Harry. Claire sat at the other end of the table. No one asked why. Christy stood up. She tapped her glass with a fork. The table went quiet. "Everyone, I want you to meet Chidima." Chidima smiled. Her hands were folded in her lap. "She's come all the way from Nigeria to bless this family." Claire's cousin whispered, "Who is that?" Christy's voice got louder. "Chidima will be giving my son what Claire could not, a child, an heir, a future." The table went silent. Forks stopped moving. Someone coughed. Harry reached into his jacket. He pulled out a manila envelope. He slid it across the table. It stopped in front of Claire. Everyone stared. Harry didn't look at her. "Sign it." Claire opened the folder. Divorce papers. Her name was already typed at the bottom. There was a pen clipped to the inside. She looked around the table. Her sister-in-law wouldn't meet her eyes. Her brother-in-law stared at his plate. Uncle Jerome took a sip of his drink and looked away. Christy was smiling. Claire's hand started shaking. She picked up the pen. She signed her name. A tear fell onto the paper. It smudged the ink. She stood up. She folded her napkin and placed it on the table. She looked at Harry. Her voice was steady. "You'll regret this." Then she walked out. No one stopped her. No one said a word. The front door closed behind her, and the only sound left in that house was the hum of the refrigerator and the quiet clinking of forks on plates. Claire drove to her parents' house. It was 11 at night. Her mother, Janet, opened the door in her robe. She saw Claire's face. "What happened?" Claire's voice came out flat. "He divorced me, at dinner, in front of everyone." Janet pulled her inside. Her father, Robert, was in the living room in his chair. He stood up the second he saw Claire. "Where is he?" "It doesn't matter." "It does matter. I'll drive over there right now and—" "No." Robert stopped. Claire looked at him. "I don't want him back." That night, Claire sat on the couch in her childhood home. Her mother made her tea. Her father paced back and forth, muttering about lawyers. Claire didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat there, holding the warm mug in her hands. And somewhere deep inside her chest, something shifted. She wasn't broken. She was free. 2 days later, Claire woke up feeling wrong. Her stomach was churning. She ran to the bathroom and threw up. Janet knocked on the door. "Honey, you okay?" Claire wiped her mouth. "I think it's just stress." But it wasn't stress. Later that day, Claire was sitting on the edge of the bed when the dizziness hit. The room tilted. Janet appeared in the doorway. She was holding something small, a pregnancy test. "Just in case." Claire stared at it. She didn't want to take it, because if it was negative, it would confirm everything Christy had said. And if it was positive, she didn't know which one scared her more. Claire locked herself in the bathroom. She took the test. She set it on the counter and stared at the wall. 2 minutes felt like 2 hours. When she finally looked down, there were 2 lines. Her hands started shaking. She sat down on the bathroom floor and stared at the test in her hand. That afternoon, Claire went to the clinic. She sat alone in the waiting room, staring at a poster about prenatal vitamins. A nurse called her name. The doctor ran the test. Then she smiled. "Congratulations, Claire. You're 2 weeks pregnant." Claire's throat tightened. "But the IVF failed." The doctor nodded. "Sometimes the body has its own timeline. This is a natural conception." The IVF they'd tried weeks ago had planted nothing. But Claire's body, in its own quiet rebellion, had done what they said was impossible. Claire stared at the ultrasound on the screen, a tiny dot, too small to be real, but real enough to change everything. She whispered, "He'll never know." Back at Harry's house, things were different. Chidima had moved in the day after the divorce. She brought 2 suitcases and a smile. For the first 2 days, she was perfect, polite, helpful, soft-spoken. "Thank you so much for bringing me here, Ma. I won't let you down." She cooked 1 meal, jollof rice and fried plantains. It was fine, not great, but fine. Christy bragged about it anyway. "See, Harry? This is what a real wife looks like." Harry said nothing. He just ate, his face blank. Day 2. Chidima did 1 load of laundry. She folded it slowly, humming to herself. Christy watched from the doorway, arms folded, nodding in approval. "Good, very good." That night, Harry came home to a clean kitchen. The dishes were done. The floor was swept. Christy was in the living room smiling. "You see? I told you. A good woman makes a good home." Harry looked around. The house was clean. But it didn't feel like home. For 2 days, Christy thought she'd won. For 2 days, Harry thought he'd made the right choice. For 2 days, Chidima played the role perfectly. And then, on the 3rd day, the mask dropped. Day 3. Morning. Harry left for work at 7. By the time he got home at 6, the kitchen was a disaster. Dishes piled in the sink. Food crusted on the counter. The trash was overflowing. The smell hit him the second he walked in. Christy was in the kitchen, staring at the mess. "Chidima, you need to clean this before—" "I'm tired." Christy turned around. Chidima was on the couch, watching TV, eating chips straight from the bag. Crumbs were all over her shirt. Christy's voice got sharp. "Excuse me?" Chidima didn't look up. "You heard me. I'm tired. You clean it." Christy's mouth opened. No sound came out. "I beg your pardon?" Chidima finally looked at her. "You're not my mother. Don't talk to me like that." Christy took a step forward. "In this house I am in charge. You will respect me." Chidima stood up. She was taller than Christy. She looked down at her. "In your house? I didn't sign up to be your maid?" Christy called Harry at work. Her voice was shaking. "You need to come home. Now." "What's wrong?" "It's Chidima. She disrespected me." Harry sighed. "I'm in the middle of... Harry, I am not joking. Come home." He hung up. He didn't come home. That night, Harry came home to chaos. The dishes were still in the sink. The laundry was on the floor. Chidima was in the bedroom, door locked. Christy was sitting on the couch, arms folded, staring at nothing. Harry knocked on the bedroom door. "Chidima." No answer. "Chidima, open the door." The door opened. Chidima stood there in a tank top and shorts. Her arms were crossed. "What?" "The house is a mess." "So? So you need to clean it." Chidima laughed. "I don't know how to use your American washing machine, and your stove is too complicated." Harry's jaw tightened. "Claire never—" He stopped himself. Chidima's eyes narrowed. "Claire is gone. I'm here now. Get used to it." She slammed the door in his face. That night, Harry couldn't sleep. The sheets smelled like cheap perfume. The bed felt wrong. He lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time since the divorce, he thought about Claire. He thought about the way she used to fold his shirts, the way she hummed when she cooked, the way the house always smelled like lemon cleaner and vanilla candles. Week 1 became week 2. The house got worse. Dishes piled higher. The trash started to smell. The carpet had stains that wouldn't come out. Chidima stopped pretending. She demanded money. "I need $500. Harry looked up from his laptop. "For what?" "My hair. My nails. My friends back home need help." "I just gave you money last week." Chidima shrugged. "Then I won't cook, or clean, or sleep in your bed." She walked out of the room. Harry sat there, staring at his computer screen. The numbers blurred. He thought about Claire. She never asked him for money. She worked part-time at the library and saved every penny. She bought his mother flowers on her birthday, even though Christy never said thank you, and he'd thrown her away. One night, Christy tried to assert control. She waited until Harry was at work. She walked into the living room where Chidima was watching TV. "We need to talk." Chidima didn't look up. "About what?" "About your behavior. You need to—" Chidima stood up. She walked over to Christy. She got close. Too close. "I need to what?" Christy took a step back. "You need to respect this house and—" Chidima slapped her. The sound echoed through the house. Christy stumbled backward, her hand on her cheek. She stared at Chidima, eyes wide. Chidima didn't blink. "Don't you ever tell me what to do. You brought me here to be a breeding cow. You don't get to order me around." Christy opened her mouth to speak. Chidima pointed at the door. "Get out! This is my son's house. And you're a guest. Get out!" Christy left. She stood on the porch, shaking. She tried the door. It was locked. Chidima had locked her out. Christy walked to her car. She sat in the driver's seat and stared at the house her son had built, the house she used to walk into whenever she wanted. That night, she slept in her car, in the driveway, and Harry didn't even know until the next morning. The next day, Christy tried to tell Harry what happened. "She hit me." Harry was eating cereal, scrolling through his phone. "Who hit you?" "Chidima. She slapped me. And then she locked me out." Harry didn't look up. "Come on." "I'm serious. She's half your size." "Harry, I am telling you the truth." He finally looked at her. "Maybe you said something to upset her." Christy's mouth fell open. "Excuse me? You can be a lot sometimes." Christy stood up. She walked out of the kitchen. She didn't say another word. Week 2 became week 3. Chidima got bolder. She started demanding sex, not asking, demanding. You wanted a wife who could give you children, right? Then perform. Harry was exhausted. He worked 10-hour days. He came home to a destroyed house. He barely slept. And now, every night, Chidima expected him to... He couldn't even think about it without feeling sick. One night, Harry said he was too tired. Chidima didn't take it well. She screamed. She threw a pillow at him. Then she stormed out of the bedroom. Harry heard the garage door open. He heard something heavy being dragged across the concrete. Then he heard glass shatter. Harry ran outside. Chidima was standing in the driveway holding a hammer. The passenger window of his car was smashed. Glass was everywhere. She dropped the hammer and looked at him. You want to disrespect me? This is what you get. Harry stared at the car. $800 to replace that window. Chidima walked back inside. The door slammed. Harry stood there in the driveway in his pajamas, staring at the broken glass. That's when he realized. He didn't marry a wife. He married a warden. The next morning, Harry and Christy sat at the kitchen table. Neither of them spoke. The house smelled like garbage. The dishes from 3 days ago were still in the sink. Christy finally broke the silence. We made a mistake. Harry didn't respond. We need to send her back. Harry rubbed his face. And then what? Christy didn't answer, because they both knew. If they sent Chidima back, they'd have nothing. No wife, no baby, no heir, just an empty house that smelled like regret. That night, Harry sat alone in his bedroom. Chidima was asleep in the guest room. She'd moved herself there a week ago. Harry picked up his phone. He scrolled to Claire's contact. His thumb hovered over her name. He typed, I made a mistake. He stared at the message. 3 words. That's all it would take. 3 words, and maybe, just maybe, she'd respond. He stared at the screen for 5 minutes. Then he deleted it. Pride is a prison with no bars. And Harry had just locked himself inside. The next day, Harry and Christy made the call. They contacted Chidima's family in Nigeria. They offered $2,000. Take her back. No questions asked. The family agreed. 2 days later, Chidima's uncle arrived. He didn't say much. He just looked around the house, the broken dishes, the stained carpet, the smell, and shook his head. Chidima packed her 2 suitcases. She walked to the front door. She stopped and turned around. Christy and Harry were standing in the living room. Chidima smiled. You people are cursed. That's why you'll never have children. Then she walked out. The door slammed. The house went silent. Harry stood there staring at the door. Christy sat down on the couch. Harry walked through the house. Every room was destroyed. Broken dishes in the sink, stained carpet in the bedroom, a crack in the bathroom mirror, the smell of old food and sweat and something he couldn't identify. The house they'd built together, the one Claire had kept clean, warm, and full of love, was now a graveyard. The next day, Harry and Christy drove to Claire's parents' house. They didn't call ahead. They just showed up. Robert opened the door. He saw them standing on the porch. His face went cold. No. Mr. Thompson, please, we just want to talk to... No. We made a mistake. You made a mistake? Robert's voice rose. You humiliated my daughter in front of your entire family. You handed her divorce papers at a dinner table, and now you want to talk? Christy stepped forward. Please, I was wrong. I see that now. Just let us... She doesn't want to see you. Robert closed the door. They came back the next day. Robert didn't even open the door. He just yelled through it. Go away. They came back the day after that, and the day after that. On the 5th day, Janet answered the door. She looked at Christy. Her voice was ice. You called my daughter Barren in front of your entire family. You tore up medical reports that proved she was fine. You forced her to drink herbs that made her sick. And then when your son found a replacement, you made her sign divorce papers in front of 12 people while they ate food she cooked. Christy's eyes filled with tears.
I know. I'm so sorry.
You don't get to apologize when it's convenient. Janet closed the door. Harry and Christy sat in the car outside Claire's parents' house. They didn't speak. They just sat there, staring at the house, knowing Claire was inside, knowing she wanted nothing to do with them. They came back 5 times, and every time the answer was the same: no. Inside the house, Claire watched from the upstairs window. She saw Harry's car in the driveway. She saw Christy standing on the porch. She saw her father turn them away, and she felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just nothing. She was 10 weeks pregnant now. Her stomach was still flat, but she could feel it. A small flutter, a reminder. She wasn't alone anymore. That night, Claire's parents sat her down. Janet spoke first. They've been coming here every day for 2 weeks. Claire didn't look up from her tea. I know. They want to apologize. I don't care. Robert leaned forward. Claire, sweetheart, you don't have to forgive them, but maybe you should hear them out. For closure. Claire looked at her father. Closure? So you can move on. Claire set down her tea. I have moved on. Janet reached over and squeezed her hand. Just one meeting, that's all. If you hate it, you never have to see them again. Claire thought about it. She thought about Harry's face when he slid those papers across the table. She thought about Christy dumping her food in the trash. She thought about the way no one at that dinner had defended her. And then she thought about the baby growing inside her. The baby Harry didn't know about. The baby Christy said would never exist. Claire smiled. Fine, 1 meeting. That's it. She agreed. Not because she was weak, but because she had something to tell them, and she wanted to see their faces when she did. The meeting was set for Saturday afternoon. Claire's parents' living room. Neutral ground. Harry and Christy arrived 15 minutes early. They sat in their car, rehearsing what they'd say. Christy kept wringing her hands. What if she doesn't listen? Harry stared at the steering wheel. Then we've lost her forever. At exactly 2 o'clock, they knocked on the door. Robert answered. He didn't smile. He didn't shake their hands. He just stepped aside and let them in. Janet was sitting on the couch. Her face was stone. Harry and Christy sat on the couch across from her. The room was silent. Then they heard footsteps on the stairs. Claire appeared in the doorway. She was wearing a loose sweater and jeans. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. She looked tired. But she also looked peaceful. Harry's breath caught in his throat. He hadn't seen her in 2 months. She looked different. Softer somehow. Claire sat down in the armchair between her parents. She folded her hands in her lap, on her stomach. Christy spoke first. Claire, Robert's voice cut through the room like a knife. Christy, Harry, be quiet. They both stopped. Robert looked at Claire. Claire has something to say. Harry leaned forward. Claire, please. I know I hurt you. Be quiet. It was Janet this time. Her voice was calm, but the command was absolute. Harry closed his mouth. Claire looked at Harry, then at Christy. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She just looked done. She took a breath. I'm pregnant. The room went completely silent. You could hear the clock ticking on the wall. You could hear someone breathing. Harry's phone slipped from his hand. It hit the hardwood floor. The screen cracked. Harry tried to stand. His knees buckled. He sat back down hard. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Christy stared at Claire. Her hand was covering her mouth. Harry finally found his voice. How long? Claire's voice was steady. I found out 2 days after you handed me those papers. I'm 10 weeks along now. Christy's voice came out as a whisper. The IVF? Claire shook her head. Failed. This baby came naturally. She paused. Without your herbs, without your prayers, without you. Christy's face crumpled. She started crying. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears running down her face. Harry was still staring at Claire. His eyes were red. "Claire, I'm not finished." Claire stood up. She was calm, in control. She looked down at Harry and Christy, still sitting on the couch, and for the first time in their entire relationship, she was the one with power. "You wanted a woman who could give you a child. You have one." Her voice didn't waver. "But you'll raise this one knowing that you threw away the only woman who loved you when you had nothing to offer but blame." She turned to Christy. "You wanted a daughter-in-law who would obey you. You got one." Christy looked up at her, tears still streaming. "And she beat you, locked you out of your own son's house, destroyed everything you tried to build." Claire's voice got quieter, but somehow it cut deeper. "That is what you deserved." Christy let out a sob. Claire looked back at Harry. "I will raise this child, alone if I have to." Harry shook his head. "Claire, please, You will know they exist, but you will earn the right to be in their life." Harry stood up. This time his legs held. "I'll do anything, just please." Claire held up her hand. He stopped talking. "You asked me if I had a child to show for it." The room went silent again. Claire's hand rested on her stomach. "Now I do. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if they'll ever call you Dad." Harry broke. He started crying. Not quiet tears like Christy. Full, body-shaking sobs. He covered his face with his hands. "I'm sorry. God, Claire, I'm so sorry." Claire didn't move. She didn't comfort him. She just stood there, watching him fall apart. Robert stood up. "I think that's enough for today." Christy stood, wiping her eyes. "Claire, please, just give us a chance to—" Janet stood too. "You heard her? You'll earn it." Harry looked at Claire one more time. His face was wet. His voice was broken. "I'll do whatever it takes." Claire didn't respond. She just turned and walked back upstairs. Let's talk about what Harry lost. The house. Every room was a reminder of his failure. The kitchen still smelled like old food no matter how many times he cleaned it. The carpet in the bedroom had stains that wouldn't come out. $3,000 to deep clean the entire house. $800 to replace the car window Chidima shattered. $1,200 to replace the carpet. And even after all of that, the house still didn't feel right. The respect. Harry's family stopped calling. His cousin wouldn't return his texts. His uncle saw him at the grocery store and walked the other way. At work, people whispered. Someone had heard about the divorce, about Chidima, about the chaos. He divorced a good woman for a village girl who destroyed his house. That's what they said. Harry heard it in the break room one day. He didn't correct them. Because it was true. The sleep. Harry couldn't sleep anymore. Every night he lay awake in that empty house, thinking about Claire, alone, pregnant, carrying his child. 3 weeks after the meeting, Harry made a decision. He sat Christy down at the kitchen table. "You need to go back home." Christy stared at him. "What?" "Back to Nigeria. I'll buy you a ticket. First class. Whatever you need. But you can't stay here anymore." Christy's voice shook. "You're sending me away?" "I'm asking you to leave." "Because of her?" Harry shook his head. "Because of me. Because I let you control my life, my marriage, and I lost the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too weak to stand up to you." Christy stood up. "I did everything for you. Everything. I flew healers here. I found you a new wife. You destroyed my life." The words hung in the air. Christy's face went pale. Harry looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time, he saw her the way Claire must have seen her. Controlling. Cruel. Afraid of losing power. "I'll book you a flight for next week." Christy didn't argue. She just walked upstairs to pack. 1 week later, Harry drove Christy to the airport. They didn't talk the entire drive. At the curb, Christy got out of the car. She looked at Harry through the window. "You'll regret this." Harry shook his head. "I already do. Just not the way you think." He drove away. Christy stood there with her suitcase, watching him disappear into traffic. 3 weeks passed. Harry sat alone in the house every night, cleaning, thinking, regretting. One night he picked up his phone. He opened a text to Claire. His hands were shaking. He typed, "I sent my mother back to Nigeria. She's gone. For good. I'm sorry for everything. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know." He stared at the message. Then he hit send. He set the phone down on the table, and he waited. 1 hour passed. No response. 2 hours. Nothing. Harry went to bed that night thinking she'd never reply. Meanwhile, across town, Claire was sitting in a small apartment she'd rented 2 weeks earlier. She couldn't stay at her parents' house forever. She needed her own space, a place to prepare for the baby. She was 13 weeks pregnant now. Her stomach was just starting to show. Her phone buzzed. She saw Harry's name. She almost didn't open it, but she did. She read, "I sent my mother back to Nigeria. She's gone. For good." Claire stared at the message. She didn't respond, but something shifted in her face. The next morning, Claire called her father. "Dad, can you find out if Harry actually sent Christy back to Nigeria?" Robert was surprised. "Why?" "Just, can you check?" 2 days later, Robert called back. "I checked with Harry's cousin. Christy flew back to Nigeria 4 weeks ago. One-way ticket. Harry told her not to come back." Claire was quiet. "Claire, what are you thinking?" "I don't know yet." Claire sat in her apartment that night, hand on her stomach, thinking about the baby, about Harry, about doing this alone. Here's the thing about Claire. She wasn't weak, and she wasn't desperate. But she also wasn't stupid. Harry had finally done the one thing she needed him to do. He'd chosen her over his mother, and that changed everything. Claire picked up her phone. She typed, "We need to talk. Come to my apartment tomorrow, 2 p.m. She hit send. The next day, at exactly 2 o'clock, there was a knock on Claire's door. She opened it. Harry stood there. He looked terrible, thinner, dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Come in." Harry stepped inside. He looked around the apartment. Small but clean. There was a corner with baby things, a bassinet, folded clothes, bottles. Harry stared at it. His throat tightened. "Sit down." Harry sat on the couch. Claire sat in the chair across from him, 13 weeks pregnant, her hand resting on her stomach. "You sent your mother home." Harry nodded. "Yes." "Why?" Harry looked down. "Because she destroyed us, and I let her. I was too weak to stand up to her. But I'm not anymore." "What did you tell her?" "That she couldn't come back, that I lost you because I chose her over you, and I wasn't going to make that mistake again." Silence. Claire looked at him. "Do you mean that?" Harry looked her in the eyes. "Yes." Claire took a breath. "I've been thinking about this baby, about what kind of life I want them to have." Harry leaned forward. "And I don't want to raise them alone, not because I can't, but because I don't want to." Harry's eyes widened. "Claire—" "I'm not finished." Harry closed his mouth. "So I'm willing to try again." Harry's voice broke. "Claire, but not the way it was before. If you come back, you're coming back on my terms. Do you understand?" Harry nodded quickly. "Yes. Anything." Claire leaned forward. "Your mother stays in Nigeria. If she shows up here, you send her away. She doesn't meet this baby until I say so, and I might never say so." "Okay. You cook, you clean, you help with this baby. You don't get to sit on the couch while I do everything." "I will." "And if you ever speak to me the way you did that night, if you ever make me feel small again, I'm gone. No second chances, no apologies, just gone." Harry's eyes filled with tears. I understand. Claire stood up. Then we'll try. Harry stood. Thank you. Claire's face didn't soften. Don't thank me, prove it. Harry wiped his eyes. I will, every day. I promise. Claire looked at him. We'll see. Back in Nigeria, Christy sat in her small village house. The walls were cracked. The roof leaked when it rained. She stared at her phone. She'd called Harry 6 times this week. He hadn't answered once. Her sister came by with food. Christy, you need to eat. Christy pushed the plate away. I need to go back to America. Her sister sighed. Harry told you not to come back. He didn't mean it. Her sister sat down. He sent you a one-way ticket. He meant it. Christy's hands started shaking. He's my son. That's my grandson. I have a right. You have nothing. Christy looked up. Her sister's voice was quiet but firm. You destroyed his marriage. You called his wife Barren when she wasn't. You brought another woman into his house. And now you're sitting here alone because of the choices you made. Christy's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to help him. You were trying to control him. And you lost. Her sister stood up. If you go back to America, Claire will shut the door in your face. And Harry won't stop her. Because he's finally learned something you never taught him. Christy looked up. What? That a man protects his wife, even from his own mother. Her sister left. Christy sat alone in the dark. She thought about the baby, growing bigger every day without her. She thought about Claire, the woman she'd underestimated, the woman who'd taken everything from her without lifting a finger. And she thought about Harry, her son, who'd chosen a woman over his own mother. Christy picked up her phone. She opened the airline app. She looked at the flights back to Seattle. Then she closed the app. Because for the first time in her life, Christy understood something. She'd lost. Not because Claire was stronger, not because Harry was weak, but because she'd built her power on control. And the moment someone refused to be controlled, her power vanished. She sat there in the dark, alone. In the village she'd left 30 years ago. She'd gotten exactly what she wanted, a son who was married, a grandchild on the way. But she'd never hold that baby. She'd never hear them call her grandma. Because she'd spent so long controlling everyone around her, she forgot that love can't be forced. It has to be earned. And she never learned how. So here's the question. Did Claire go back too soon? He sent one text. He got rid of his mother. And 3 months after he humiliated her in front of 12 people, she let him back in. Some people say that's smart. A man who cuts off his own mother for you has learned his lesson. Others say 3 months isn't enough, that Claire gave in too easily, that he should have suffered longer. What do you think?